那接下来呢，我们欢迎我们第3位讲者 Microsoft 医疗事业体的首席设计师 Moni Wolf 为我们带来的主题用 UX 翻转医疗照护，让我们欢迎。
Hello. Hello, good morning. How are you? I would like to talk to you about healthcare. And before we get started, I would like to ask you a favor. Please put everything on the floor and stand up for one moment. Yes! Let's move, it's healthy. You have been sitting for over 1 hour, so I wanted to get you moving before you have to listen to my presentation. It's healthy. Before I get started, thank you. You may sit down. I would like to, first of all, thank everybody for the invitation. It has been an amazing experience to be here. The hosts were wonderful. I'm humbled and I deeply appreciate everything you have done for me. I'm very inspired and I have a sketchbook that I started just for my Taipei trip and it is filling rapidly. And I hope I can give you a little bit of inspiration as well. And the student work yesterday and the discussions were amazing. I'm very, very impressed. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to experience this. I do have slides. So, it's a very serious topic. There are many, many serious problems to tackle. And I started as a design student in Germany, and I did a very solid, basic craftsmanship education, very much Bauhaus inspired. And when I came to the US to do my master's, I was more and more interested in computer-aided design and using computers to enhance and inspire the creative process. And long story, very short, I worked in the electronics company industry for Motorola for 13 years. And I worked with many different cultures, US, Europe, South America, emerging markets, China. And then after that, I moved to Microsoft because as a hardware designer, I wanted to be closer to people who develop software. My idea was that people who want to innovate in hardware need to be closer to the people who design the soul of a device. Software designers, user interface designers, people who think about a problem very differently. So I moved and joined Microsoft over 10 years ago now. And I started to work with them on hardware, software hardware products. And about 4 years ago, I made a very big change. I was working for Xbox. I was designing first-party headsets. And we were innovating in the hardware space with the help of our software engineers. Functionalities that have never existed, that helped the gamers to become better gamers using our hardware. But then it became obvious to me that my heart wasn't really in gaming. I'm a miserable gamer. And so I had this opportunity to work with a startup company, lean startup. It wasn't really true because it was still Microsoft. Microsoft Healthcare. It was a very small team, interdisciplinary team. And we started to work together on a project. And that was 4 years ago. And now 4 years later, there are several startups team, and we are a new incubation team in Microsoft Healthcare. So, we have very, very big problems to tackle globally. We have to reduce cost. Nobody can afford the healthcare as it is today, and it's even not that good of a healthcare. We need to reach more people with our healthcare. Right now, there are only privileged parts of the population who we can reach with our services. We need to enhance the patient experience. We need to help patients to actually heal and get better and to adhere to the subscriptions we give them. And last but not least, our clinical workforce is burned out and exhausted. Just name, for example, a term that we keep hearing, burnout. Clinicians and nurses and clinical workforce, they are burned out. If you just look at this example of how much time doctors, when they see their patients, spend one-on-one with patients, and how much time they spend to struggle with the system, with the data, with the devices they're using, I'm not surprised they're burned out. And we heard from our first speaker that people need to have human touch. And in fact, what heals people most is the attention by another human being. So, where are the designers? How can designers help? We are the people who need to take this opportunity and design the future of healthcare. We are the ones to make services and information accessible to the users and stakeholders with minimal friction. We need to remove the barriers between devices and services and the human being. And we need to simplify the information flows and workflows. Take this example, hardware. Depending on how this hardware is being designed, and there was a wonderful entry yesterday by one of the students, it will make this child healthier and happier if that device is designed properly. I love this quote by Atul Gawande. It's a wonderful and very well-known article that he wrote. We have to remember that technologists love technologies, but doctors, they love patients. And we make this mistake oftentimes when we think everybody is as fascinated about technology than we are. It's not true. We need to make technology the tool for the people who want to follow their dreams and passions. There's another quote I would like to mention by Albert Chum. He's a very popular design leader at Microsoft. I've worked with him on many projects. He wrote in a recent article, "Design lives at the crossroads of technology and liberal arts. And it is that duality that allows us to be problem solvers and artists at the same time. The design job of the future will be to affect change with creativity. Because automation only serves the system. What we at creatives do, we talk to the heart of people, and we are behind the experience. That's our unique responsibility, opportunity, and frankly, what makes us happy as designers. And that's what we can contribute to this new space called healthcare. So, of course, my background is German. Of course, I have a process, but I will keep it short. So I divided the overall design process into 4 phases. Number 1, we need to learn who our users are. We are the people who create the empathy for our users and stakeholders, understand them, live in their shoes, and then go back to our interdisciplinary team and explain what the problems really are that we are trying to solve. And then we can articulate those problems and tell in stories and documentation what those problems are and come up with ideas on how we can solve those problems. We explore information architecture. We are allowed to question everything that exists today. We are allowed to come up with crazy ideas that are never doable. And this is what gives other people in our teams the energy to come up with ideas that just have never been there. So we don't evolve and improve what we have today, but we disrupt and we revolutionize and we truly transform with new ideas. And then, of course, we need to continue to learn. When you launch a product, it's out in the world, but that's when a very important learning phase starts. That's when you have real user feedback. That's when you learn where there are pitfalls and people struggle with your products. That's the moment of truth that really allows you to continue to improve what you have created. And very important, and I heard this already yesterday a lot in the discussions and this morning in the presentations, very, very important to be aware of two major things. We have to design more inclusively. We need to be more tolerant and inspired by every single user and not just by the easiest user to define. And we need to do that in an interdisciplinary way. So I would like to show you an example of a team at Microsoft who has done this in workshops very intensively. There should be sound.
Inclusive, such that in the end, it's really going to benefit everybody. So, you know, new functions, new features, yeah, they might work for a few people here and there, but if you improve the overall process, you improve the overall flow, the whole experience itself, that will benefit everyone.
So we really have on Dynamics 365 for Talent bridged the gap between engineering and design when it comes to inclusive design. Our engineers have learned a ton this past year about what it means to be compliant and then beyond compliant. And so I think it really is a collaboration between the two disciplines plus PMs and research and content strategists to understand how we can take this design thinking and apply it across the board from day one.
Someone's environment essentially makes them disabled versus them being disabled as a person, which kind of resonated with me the rest of the sprint as reminding us that it's our responsibility as designers to create an inclusive world, in our world that's inclusive software.
I can almost guarantee you that 95% of users don't start at the top of the page and read all the way to the bottom of the page and then decide what they want.
So a little bit about our team. We are we are a very small team, less than 50 people, I believe. And we are calling ourselves, as of last week, Health Futures. We are a very small team, interdisciplinary, and we incubate. We innovate, we incubate, we do small projects, and we investigate at a very high level, very deep, and very scientific. And we are very diverse. We are researchers, scientists, engineers, biotechnologies, designers, social scientists, healthcare experts, very important. We have healthcare experts, doctors on our teams, so we don't try to understand what we think their problem is, but they can actually teach us what their problem is. So we just started this homepage where we said, who are we? Yes, we're about healthcare, but in reality, we actually build tools, we build software, we build services for clinicians. So that's why we use this typeface and this kind of animation to communicate that we are the software services behind it. And we focus on natural language understanding, genomics, immunomics, pathogen surveillance, and physiological sensing. A lot of complicated words, so let me give you a few examples. One is a
The intelligent
video.
scribe captures doctor-patient
very
conversations
telling.
and creates medical intelligence to generate a medical note.
I'm just going to ask you a series of questions to make sure we're not
While the
missing
doctor
anything.
focuses on the patient, the system captures the dialogue.
Really tired lately or anything like that?
I'm just a little tired from it.
Okay. How about any problems with, have you noticed a fever or just generally feeling unwell?
No.
Okay. You mentioned the headaches.
Just the headache. Yeah.
Integrating this dialogue with context from the patient's health record, a learning system in the cloud generates a medical note. After the visit, the doctor can easily edit the note generated by the system. Let's see how this technology works. The intelligent scribe extracts clinical content from the dialogue and classifies it to standard sections of the medical note. It also identifies clinically relevant concepts. The clinical content is synthesized to generate note suggestions. The doctor can refer to the original transcript for more context on the suggestion. The system flags suggestions that need the doctor's attention. As she corrects the suggestions, the system learns her choices. The doctor is always in full control of the note and can modify it. She can capture the patient's speech. She can convert conversational speech to medical terms. And she can personalize the content of the note. Here's an example of how the review of systems could be presented. The intelligent scribe captures all changes and learns from them. This simplifies note creation. Over time, the doctor makes fewer edits to the medical note. Finally, the doctor can view important events in the patient's journey. This helps her with context for future visits. The intelligent scribe empowers doctors to focus more of their time on patients. This is a foundation for building a learning system that synthesizes medical knowledge at scale.
So this was one of the projects that we worked on to save time for the doctor so the doctor can actually spend time with the patient one-on-one. We all know personal attention and relationships and caring is what's best for patients, and that's what our job was, to attempt to save the doctor time and help the doctor organize information. We also do more scientific projects. On one example, a project or a program called Immunomics, where we partner with a company called Adaptive Biotech. And we basically take blood samples and sequence those blood samples and basically understand the constellation of those and match them with other cells in the body and start to, with machine learning, collect data about your immune system, what diseases you have been fighting, what diseases you might be vulnerable to, and what future risks might be. So overall, by learning through immunomics with this team, we can empower a much more knowledgeable expertise. This one is actually quite fun, Project Premonition, where the goal of this team is to detect pathogens before they cause outbreaks. So what the team does, they collect mosquitoes from animals that they have visited or picked in the wild, and they investigate what kind of information is in those blood samples. So what the team actually does, they collect these mosquitoes with machines in, let's say, a particular area, and they identify even new mosquitoes that have never been collected before. And they collect them and observe behavioral patterns. So in their lab that they're working on right now, they simulate certain environments and they study behavior patterns of those mosquitoes, for example, and that way they can start to warn certain areas. If there is a certain behavior pattern about to happen, there might be a high chance of an outbreak, and the team can start warning for potential risks. And last but not least, we also do hardware. This was a project I was recently involved with, where we have sensors in hardware, and we use those sensors to collect data. And we learn from that data, and we create machine learning models from it to diagnose certain diseases and to maybe manage or heal those diseases. And what was very important for this project was that it was the sensors that we had to develop. But for me as industrial designer, it was very great to contribute that this band needed to be a certain look, a certain comfort, so the patients would actually be compliant and be willing to wear and use a device that we needed them to use it to get the data that we needed to get on a high quality level. One last example I would like to mention is AR, VR, MR, mixed reality. And we work a lot we have a very large team, Cognition, that works on HoloLens and HoloLens applications. We also have our internal hardware team. But for healthcare, we actually work with partners. One of the partners is Stryker. They have decades of experience with healthcare products, hardware and software. And they have been working on applications of HoloLens in the medical space. So for now, today, you will see a lot of applications for training purposes, for space planning, and for collaborations. It's going to be a long time and a lot of hours and learning before we can actually do virtual surgery. But it's a very interesting space and a good start that we have here. Two more trends that I haven't talked about yet today that I personally think that are going to influence designers and how designers can ideate solutions. Remote care and unified systems. If we want to reach a larger population of patients, we need to start to incorporate remote care and telemedicine. We need to have mobile applications. We need to have a very good communication system so not everybody can go to a hospital, whether it's because they don't have the money or they live too far away from it. We need to cover those people and support them. And the last but not least, I think an area that is still completely undiscovered is what we call medical IoT. So just in this example, if you have a device that is connected and you can feed various information, patient information, and alert the workforce more tailored, you really help to get the right information to the right person at the right time. And you don't overwhelm people by having to be dealing with all this information, but the information arrives in their consciousness at the right moment with the right level of emergency. Okay, I think that was everything I wanted to talk to you about. So I have 4 takeaways. Remember, healthcare has very big problems to tackle, and I believe design will play a huge role to simplify those problems and to come up with ideas and solutions nobody else can come up with. we make technology accessible to users. So we need to understand the technology, but then we need to translate that technology for users and stakeholders who have different interests. They don't have fun using technology for the sake of using technology. This is a fun one. Never forget. Design lives at the crossroads of technology and liberal arts. Our creativity will be essential for the future of healthcare. I believe we must design the future of healthcare. Thank you.
好，我们非常谢谢 Moni 精彩的演说，谢谢。